Most great rebellions have a clear ideological target. People take up arms to overthrow a tyrant, defend a faith, or establish a new nation. In the late 16th century, the Ottoman Empire faced a 50-year internal war that shared none of those goals. The Celali Rebellions were led by thousands of men who had no interest in destroying the Ottoman state itself. These religious students, ruined displaced farmers, and mid-level officials armed themselves for a specific, self-interested purpose: to extort official government titles and a larger share of the empire's dwindling wealth. The Ottoman heartland became a brutal mercenary war zone because its economic and military structures shattered under the weight of global instability. The first domino fell with a global currency crisis. As European silver flooded world markets, the Ottoman akçe lost its value, causing prices to soar. Overnight, the purchasing power that built the empire's golden age collapsed. This chart tracks the disaster. As purchasing power dropped below the survival threshold, the government made emergency wartime taxes permanent. The burden became unbearable. Thousands of farmers, becoming çiftbozan, abandoned their fields and fled their villages to escape tax collectors, causing agricultural production to stall. On the roads, these fleeing farmers encountered the sukde, religious students who had left the madrasas because the failing economy offered no paths to employment. This massive demographic of unemployed, desperate young men became known as the Levend. For the Levend, survival meant a shift in morality. Banditry was no longer a crime of desperation. It became the only viable career path in a region where the traditional economy had failed them. Typically, the Sipahi cavalry would maintain order in these provinces, but they were pinned down in exhausting multi-front wars against Austria and Iran, leaving the interior of Anatolia effectively unguarded. Local governors, or Sancak Beyleri, were trapped. They were ordered to collect taxes and keep the peace, but they were provided with no official troops to enforce those orders. Their solution was a fatal compromise. They began hiring the roaming Levend gangs as private mercenary militias to enforce tax collection by force. The balance of power shifted when these mercenaries armed themselves with muskets. Now known as Sekban, these former peasants possessed greater firepower than many official local forces. This gave them the ability to defy the very state that hired them. The government had armed its most desperate citizens to oppress the rest of the population. In this system, the line between official state authority and ruthless banditry disappeared. By the 1590s, the system disintegrated. Leaders like Kara Yazıcı amassed private Sekban armies of over 30,000 men, forces capable of defeating the Sultan's regular army in open battle. Despite their size, these were not revolutionary movements. Academic analysis of the goals of the Celalis shows they weren't fighting for a new religion or a different government. They were using military force to bully Istanbul into giving them governor titles and tax-collecting rights. This created a cycle of bribery. A rebel leader might pillage a province one month, be granted the title of Pasha the next to pacify him, and then return to rebellion as soon as his government salary was delayed. The victims of this political theater were the millions of civilians caught in the middle. They were systematically pillaged by rebels and then squeezed by the government's own mercenaries. The terror led to the Büyük Kaçgun, the Great Flight. Entire regions saw a mass exodus as families abandoned their homes to hide in walled cities or remote mountains, triggering a famine that devastated the heart of the empire. The Celali Rebellions demonstrate that an empire doesn't need an external invader to collapse. When a state's economic and military systems fail to provide basic justice and a path to survival, it breeds monsters from within its own borders.